Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to year 2 of the Patreon podcast. I'm trying a couple different things. You might notice the audio quality is a little better. I'm taking the advantage of working from home and being able to have my nice microphone to have better audio quality sitting in the basement. I'm in the midst of recording an audiobook right now, so I kind of have everything set up anyway. And since this corner is already kind of partitioned off, maybe I'll just keep it this way so I can continue to talk and just record things this way. This might work fairly well in the long run. So as far as the format for year 2, I guess I kind of want to keep it similar, but I also want to modify things a bit. The first thing is I might not have a creative exploration-ish type of topic every time. It might be more of like a journal entry. It might be more of just kind of a what's going on with my life right now kind of thing. Obviously, I do still want to talk about creative topics, creative facets. I think that that's still very important, but I kind of do intend on keeping this as a solo show, kind of like a podcast, but also kind of just like a journal, what's on my mind kind of thing too. I think that there's a lot of important things that can be talked about through that. I'm also going to try very hard to not talk quickly and more focus on just getting everything out the way I want it to. This is definitely something that I want to focus on because I tend to talk fast, and that really means that I'm not thinking before I talk, and I want to make sure that I properly convey the thoughts that I want to say. So having said all of that, that's my goal. I'm not sure how much of it will be preserved, but that's at least a starting point for us to move on into year 2. And I figure the thing that's been on my mind right now, and I think that there's a lot to be talked about here, is just surviving August, which is probably what I will be naming this episode as well. I had an incredibly difficult month in August. I decided, or kind of the schedules, the powers that be that set up a convention, and a virtual convention that I attended, decided that Color Jumper should come out at that time. And since Death Drives the Bus was 90% of the way there, I forced myself to get that game into a state that was ready and able to be played and distributed. I was also finishing up the soundtrack for Death Drives the Bus, and I had started a project, a remix project with several friends, where we took one song, Chicken Nuggets, which I think I shared on the Patreon. We took the one song and it got remixed 8 different ways, and that album had to be compiled and sent off. So really in August, I released 2 albums and I released 2 games. Because Color Jumper was re-released on the Switch, that was and currently still is a very large effort that I am focusing on right now. On top of that, I am currently working on an audiobook, which I'm excited for. I've been working with Mike Duda for quite a long time, and this is kind of a continuation of that relationship with him, and I'm so happy that he likes my speaking voice. Funny side note, the microphone that I'm using to record this podcast with was funded through his first audiobook. I needed a better way of recording audio for the audiobook, and thankfully the amount that he was going to give me for the book was conveniently the same price as this Shure SM7B, which I'm talking into right now, which is basically black magic. This is one of the best microphones that you can get on a budget. On a budget in like heavy air quotes, depending on what your budget is. But some microphones get into the tens of thousands of dollars, and I definitely can't afford that. So, apologies for the cat in the background. So yeah, August was incredibly busy. And I think one of the casualties of that And I'm curious to see how September is going to go for me. But one of the casualties of August was the 2-hour track challenge. I feel like the songs that I made weren't necessarily just going through the motions, but I could tell that my brain was obviously cluttered with a lot of other stuff. Especially if you look at the start of September and moving through toward the end of it, I think that the quality of the music didn't really... It's hard to say. I think that quality-wise it was good, but the way that things are composed, the way that things were arranged, like, it felt sloppy. It felt like I just wasn't all there. And I wasn't. I've been dealing with a lot, and it's easy to just kind of not put in 100% at that time. And I should reiterate, like I've said before, the fourth agreement in the 4 agreements is always do your best. And I was doing my best. I wasn't trying to half-ass it, but my best just wasn't up to the standard of quality that I expected of myself. And I feel that those songs suffered because of it. But I wanted to talk to you just generally how I survived August. And I feel that any creative has had issues like this before, where multiple deadlines pile up all at the same time, and you're just left with a huge crunch that you have to get through. And this is never an intentional thing. Like, I never intended on having Color Jumper release a week away from Death Drives a Bus, with the soundtrack coming out the same time Color Jumper was, and like, I didn't expect any of that. But that's how it happened. That's how the stars aligned to make all of this stuff work. And I had to do it. And the first thing that I did, like most things, the first thing that I did was I made a list. I use Trello quite a bit. And I love Trello. It allows me to see where I'm at and what I'm doing, but primarily I use Trello for macro lists, meaning kind of the big items. When it comes to individual things, I focus on written lists, daily lists, and those lists are incredibly valuable to me because it gives me the freedom to write down everything that I need to do on that particular day, whether that's fixing a particular bug in Color Jumper. The menu system was bugged for a long time because of the switch port, and it took me a while to figure out. Or adding achievements to Death Drives a Bus, because that was a big thing for me. Or just compiling the soundtrack or sending it off to DistroKid, or really having dinner. I tend to stress eat. I tend to... When I'm bored or when I'm stressed, I tend to just walk into the kitchen and shovel food into my mouth. And I try to avoid that very consciously, but in doing so, I tend to forget to eat all meals. And I know that it's important that you need to have food. So having a daily list is valuable. And the thing that I learned throughout the month is that not only having a daily list, but having a daily list that is attainable. And I believe I talked about this in one of the prior episodes, but making sure that what I do on that list is something that, or what I write down on that list is doable, is possible. Because if I make a list that is unattainable, I'll probably just not do anything on the list instead of, I just won't try. Like, it's just like, this is impossible. Why would I bother? But if I can do stuff and if I can have some extra time at the end of the day after I've done that stuff, that is a successful list. That is a list that actually has done its job. And those are the lists that I try to make. It doesn't always work, but it is a step in the right direction. And I think another value, kind of a hidden value of making lists, is it makes you consider how much time each one of these tasks will take. Because that's how you can determine whether you have time to actually do everything. In the current situation I am working from home, I have a little bit more time than I used to last year because I don't have to worry about commuting. I don't have to worry about just being exhausted after work because I'm not going into a big social situation. I don't have to interact with people. Like, I can keep my battery charged better. And I think that helps a great deal to have that extra time, but it also allows me to better gauge how much time each of these tasks will take, and I can try to set it up so I do have extra time at the end of the day to hang out with my wife, to have dinner, to take a shower, to go to sleep early. All of these things are valuable. I have a timer on my phone right now that reminds me to go to bed at 9:30. I usually don't go to bed until 10 or 10:30, but having that reminder to just be like, okay, start packing it up. You need to go to sleep. And I know everybody's different. I tend to get up very early because of the cats. They tend to get me up at about 5 o'clock. So I need to go to sleep early because if I don't get my sleep, I know that I'll be exhausted and not as useful for the following days. So making lists was a really big thing for me. And I think the next big thing was delegating. And I worked with Mark LaCroix for the switch port, and he did a fantastic job. We still have some lingering issues, but it's going to be taken care of, and everything will be fine. And I also worked with Holly, and I can't remember Holly's last name right now, and I feel really bad about that. But I worked with Holly for marketing, and there were a couple hiccups with that, but overall things have been going well. We got a lot of word out, and hopefully people will start covering the game. This is only a couple days after the game was released, so I'm sure coverage will start soon. But being able to delegate these things and just the freedom of not having to think about it was really valuable for me. Even though, like, I still had to interact with it. Like, when working with Holly, like, some of this stuff was tasks that I had to take care of. And that's fine because Holly was there to guide me and help me through it instead of me trying to figure it all out on my own, which is the problem that I had with initially releasing Color Jumper, where I knew that I had to do something to market, but I didn't know what I had to do. And having somebody there with expertise allowed me to focus on the important things that I am better at, like making the game good. And finally, it's a lot of mindfulness. And even though my schedule was crammed, it's absolutely packed, I still tried to take time out in the mornings to sit outside in silence for like a half hour. Thankfully, I got up early, so I kind of sat with the sunrise. Now that it's the end of August, like, the sun is rising later and later in the year, and it's kind of bumming me out, but that's how it is. But I was able to sit in quiet and just kind of not really meditate, but just kind of enjoy not moving and not talking, because I know I'm going to be doing that for the rest of the day. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll find, or you will have seen that I've been working on befriending squirrels. It's just kind of a fun little thing to do, I guess. They're mostly there for the peanuts, and I'm there for the companionship, I guess. And we're finding some kind of middle ground in there. They don't seem to care for me as a friend, and I'm getting over the emotional hurt that comes with that. They're just there for the food, but they're wild animals, and I can't expect anything else. But the fact that I'm able to sit and feed them is nice. It's nice, and it's nice to be able to sit and have that moment of silence before things got busy. So it was really those things. It was planning, delegating, and mindfulness, and probably a million other small things. Obviously, my wife helped a lot with emotional support. I have a great community and network of people on Twitter and Discord that allowed me to kind of keep my sanity throughout all of this. But it was something that was really hard, really hard. Like, I track my mood every day using an app called Dailyo, and there was a significant dip in my mood in August because of this. And I mean, that's just how it goes, and it sucks, but that's life. Sometimes things aren't great. And the weird thing is right before it took that nosedive, I was feeling great. Like I was, I think there's 5 different moods that you can put it in. It's like rad, good, meh, bad, and terrible, or something like that. And I very, very rarely do the rad mood. Like I have to be in a particular mindset and a particular mood for that. And I was putting those in. And then all of this stuff kind of piled up. I got overworked, overwhelmed, but I didn't burn out. And I kept myself in that kind of not great meh mood instead of going into the bad moods. And that's good. Like, I'm okay with feeling bad for a little bit if I can get all this stuff done, if it needs to get done. Like, obviously, if I can push it off, if I can make things a little less stressful, I will focus on that instead from now on. But making sure that I don't burn out is more important than just about anything else. And I'm hoping that now that September starts tomorrow, I still have some other things to do. I'm wrapping up the sample pack for September right after I'm done recording this. I'm hoping that September works better for me. I have the audiobook to finish, which I'm focused on recording 10 pages a day, which will give me about a month to finish. It's about a 400-page audiobook, and I've done several stories so far. It's a bunch of short stories. And I just have some commissions to blaze through. And that's pretty much it. I think maybe in the next video, maybe in the next recording, I'll talk about commissions and my kind of arc that I had for commissions, where I started with nothing. I overloaded myself. I found a middle ground, and now I'm kind of working on not doing commissions anymore. And to be clear, not doing commissions that I don't want to anymore, not doing commissions solely for the financial purpose. Like I still want to work with people, and I still want to do collaborations with people. And if those collaborations involve them buying music off of me, then I'm totally for that. There's so many people that I love working with, and I want to keep those relationships. But that whole arc of me not worrying about commissions anymore is a big one, and maybe I'll go into that in the next episode. So look at that, 18 minutes. You gotta talk slower. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being a Patreon supporter, and thank you so much for listening. Please let me know what you think about this different format. I would really love to hear about it. I will most likely be recording 1 or 2 more episodes before this one goes out, so we'll see how it goes from there. But I really like these longer form formats where I can just sit and ramble instead of trying to focus on one particular topic like a laser. And I do like the laser focus. I think that there is a lot of value in that. But I also feel that it's nice to have a more relaxed conversation. And really, if you have questions for me, if you want me to talk about a particular topic, please let me know in the comments, because I would be more than happy to integrate that into what I'm talking about, answer specific questions. And really in 2021, which is probably another topic that I want to get into eventually, I want to make some changes for the better. Like it'll make the Patreon better. It'll make the Discord better. It'll make all my content better, hopefully. So that is in the future. So yes, again, thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Be remarkable.